One got knocked down, he won't get up again. The other went knocked him down. One got knocked down, and now he's fucking dead. The other went knocked him out. Combo Breaker!
Aliens, one of the most fascinating mysteries of all time. Now, obviously, with this crazy topic, there's gonna be tons of video games, movies, cartoons, TV shows talking about these creatures, but today I'm gonna be pitting two of the most kid-friendly, fun aliens in a fight to the death. That's right, we have a fight between Experiment 626, aka Stitch, and Invader Zim. Let's start off with my favorite Disney character, Stitch. Experiment 626, better known as Stitch, was created by Dr. Jumba as a weapon to destroy planets and wipe out entire species. But once he escaped, he landed on Earth and found himself trapped on a place called Hawaii. He soon became the pet and best friend of Lelo. Now with his story out of the way, let's see what this little blue monster has in his powers and his arsenal. Stitch has superhuman stats and even a small healing factor. He also has super senses that allow him to track down foes, and he can even spit acid. He is also super resistant to fire, energy, electricity, and blunt force, and Stitch can also grow an extra set of arms and roll into a super mobile ball. Now, Stitch carries 4 plasma pistols and sometimes a chainsaw, but he'll use just about any melee weapon he gets his hands on, if necessary. Now, Stitch being a Disney character doesn't make him a pushover by any means. I mean, think about it, he was a freaking war machine before he was, well, I guess tamed or domesticated by Lelo. So he's strong enough to lift and throw large cars and tractors and even use them like baseball bats. He can even lift up to 3,000 times his own weight, meaning he can lift up to 360,000 pounds, and is even capable of lifting large spaceships. Now, Stitch is fast enough to dodge plasma shots, lightning bolts, and fireballs, and he can even drive ships that move faster than the speed of light. And while in these ships, he can react and dodge to lasers, which gives him ridiculous reaction and movement speed. He is tough enough to survive a gas tanker explosion after driving into a pit of frickin' lava and was unharmed, and he's also capable of fighting multiple enemies at once without tiring. Now, Stitch is also a genius, as he can think faster than a supercomputer, pilot starships, lead armies, and he's a master of armed and unarmed combat. However, my favorite Disney character doesn't have his weaknesses. He can't swim and he's kind of scared of water and because, he'll drown, kind of like Sonic if he's left in it unattended. He's also scared of snow for some reason, and if an object even weighs an ounce over the 360,000 pounds, he can't lift it. He can't even move it. So let's see if Zim can stack up to Stitch. Zim was banished to the fast food galaxy. However, after learning about his species' next planetary invasion, he quit being banished and went back home to join the invasion. Well, the tall ones didn't like Zim very much. In fact, they actually were pretty mad that he quit his banishment, so they sent him to an unknown planet called Earth. Well, that's really about it for Zim's story. I mean, I guess I could go into the rest of it, but there's no point for this topic. So let's just move right into his powers and gadgets. Zim is physically superior to humans in all stats, and he can even heal, like, ridiculous amounts. He can regrow and heal entire body parts with ease. And actually, his healing is so good, he was once liquefied and was fine later. Now, Zim has a pack that is basically his life. If it's removed, his body can only last for 10 minutes. However, he can compensate for this weakness with the sheer amount of strengths and abilities that he gets from his pack. So let's look into that. His pack can create spider legs that assist him in combat, mobility, and speed. Zim's pack also has a communicator, night vision goggles, and a laser. The pack's best weapon by far is the organ harvester. Yes, in a kid's cartoon, this alien can harvest people's organs. In a flash of light, Zim can take someone's organs and replace it with something else that pretty much anything he wants. He can replace it with a radiator. So yeah, the pack is also able to revive Zim if he's incapacitated. Now, Zim is strong enough to blow down walls with his lasers and can even defeat very large mutant babies. And Zim is actually insanely durable. Like, he literally explodes constantly. The city, himself, his ship, mech suits he builds, plus he's also super resistant to heat. Like, I mean super resistant. He survived atmospheric re-entry, he was able to fly into the middle of the sun. I mean, it's ridiculous, but yeah. Now, don't get this confused. Just because he flew to the center of the sun does not give him sun-level durability or anything. This is simply he's resistant to heat. Now, Zim was, with his jetpack, is fast enough to travel across the planet in seconds, but otherwise he's just about above a peak human in speed. Now, Zim is also a genius, but he hardly ever uses his intellect correctly, so he's basically just a moron. Now, Zim isn't without his flaws. He is arrogant, overconfident, and never thinks anything all the way through, which usually makes himself to a threat to everyone, including himself. And not to mention, Zim is also incredibly irrational and overreacts to literally everything. And Zim is also incredibly weak to water and the Earth's pollen, but he can make up for this weakness with a cream he can apply during a fight. Alright, our fighters are set, so let's see which alien comes out on top. Zim's spaceship lands on the beaches of Hawaii. Stitch runs up and starts tapping on the glass. The ship opens and Zim jumps out and starts yelling about victory and world domination. Stitch jumps at Zim and slashes at him with his claws, but Zim is barely able to dodge. Zim's spider legs pop out of his packs and races into the air. Stitch growls, having his extra arms pop out. Zim goes to stab Stitch with his metal spider leg, but Stitch grabs him, swings him overhead, and smashes Zim into the ground and rips off the spider leg. Stitch laughs as Zim gets up and shoots his laser. Stitch rolls out of the way and pulls out his 4 blasters. Zim looks at Stitch, who starts firing his blasters at him. He tries to dodge but gets shot in the chest, but Zim starts to get back up and grabs Stitch with his spider legs. Stitch spits into Zim's face, burning him. Zim stumbles back as he drops Stitch. Zim's pack turns into a jetpack as he flies in the air, but Stitch starts shooting at him with his blasters. Zim flies lower down and pulls out his organ harvester, but Stitch turns and shoots Zim, making him fall to the ground. Stitch jumps on Zim's back as he's on the ground and starts ripping open his pack. Zim gets up as Stitch shoots Zim's pack, making it explode. Stitch starts to walk away as a battered Zim walks from the explosion with no pack. Stitch turns and shoots all 4 blasters at him, causing Zim's head to burst open. Stitch starts heading back home to Lelo. So our winner is Stitch, and I'll go ahead and go over the reasons why, starting with stats. Strength was a huge deciding factor, with Stitch being able to lift 360,000 pounds and swing around cars like a baseball bat. It's pretty ridiculous, and you'll see, compared to Zim, who can really only swing children like baseball bats physically, and then his best tech can only break walls, it's truly pathetic compared to Stitch's bare hands. Now, speed is a rather close step, because on foot they're both hypersonic with dodging lasers, but Zim has his spider legs, which allow him to move even faster, but what really gave Zim kind of an edge here was his jetpack that goes faster than light. But due to Stitch's reaction speed being faster than light thanks to his spaceship feats, he can definitely react and take on Zim even if he's going this fast. Now, durability is another reason Stitch has a winning advantage. Yeah, Zim flew to the sun, but that was from heat resistance, not his durability, as I explained earlier. Now, because he's resistant to heat, things like atmospheric reentry don't necessarily count as durability. However, the explosions do, but he was severely harmed after a city-sized explosion, whereas Stitch took a freaking gas tanker explosion to the face while in lava and was perfectly fine afterwards. Now, finally, intelligence. Stitch is pretty much, he wins in this category no matter what, because he's able to think faster than a supercomputer, and is a trained pilot and hand-to-hand and unarmed fighter, armed and unarmed fighter, whereas Zim he just doesn't have the mindset to do this. If you think about it, he's a genius, yes, but he hardly ever uses his intelligence correctly. So he's essentially a moron, and this really screws him over in a fight against someone like Stitch. Now, finally, while Zim does have the superior tech, things like his organ harvester, which could necessarily be an instant win, he wouldn't have the chance to use against Stitch, who has his reaction speeds and his super senses, so he wouldn't have the time to pull it out and use it. Not to mention, no matter what Zim does, Stitch always has a way to attack. He's got an extra set of arms, 4 guns, he can spit acid, he's got claws, he's got his little ball thing. No matter what, Stitch has a way out of anything Zim has, and he always has a way to attack. Whether it's by shooting, spitting, clawing, kicking, slashing, whatever you want to call it, he always has a way of attacking, whereas Zim really doesn't. Not to mention, thanks to Stitch's superior intelligence, eventually he's going to figure out that pack is the source of most of Zim's important items, and he's going to rip it apart. So really, this is a win that Zim can't take. Our winner is Stitch.
Next time on Combo Breaker.
Frozone versus Elsa.